Maybe the farmer would receive a chastened Rebus back into the fold. 4 o'clock on a December afternoon in Edinburgh. John Rebus, with his hands in his raincoat pockets, water seeping up through the leather soles of his shoes. Gilfillan was wearing green wellies. Rebus noticed that D.I. Derek Linford was wearing an almost identical pair. He'd probably phoned beforehand, checked with the archaeologist what the season's fashion was. Linford was Fetis fast stream, headed for big things at Lothian and Borders Police HQ. Late 20s, practically desk-bound, and glowing from a love of the job. Already there were CID officers, mostly older than him, who were saying it didn't do to get on the wrong side of Derek Linford. Maybe he'd have a long memory. Maybe one day he'd be looking down on them all from room 279 in the big house. The big house. Police HQ on Fetis Avenue. 279, the Chief Constable's office. Linford had his notebook out, pen clenched between his teeth. He was listening to the lecture. He was listening. 40 noblemen, 7 judges, generals, doctors, bankers. Gilfillan was letting his tour group know how important Canongate had been at one time in the city's history. In doing so, he was pointing towards the near future. The brewery next door to Queensberry House was due for demolition the following spring. The Parliament building itself would be built on the cleared site, directly across the road from Holyrood House, the Queen's Edinburgh residence. On the other side of Holyrood Road, facing Queensberry House, work was progressing on Dynamic Earth, a natural history theme park. Next to it, a new HQ for the city's daily newspaper was, at present, a giant monkey puzzle of steel girders. And across the road from that, another site was being cleared in preparation for the construction of a hotel and prestige apartment block. Rebus was standing in the midst of one of the biggest building sites in Edinburgh's history. "You'll probably all know Queensberry House as a hospital," Gilfillan was saying. Derek Linford was nodding, but then he nodded agreement with almost everything the archaeologist said. "Where we're standing now was used for car parking." Rebus looked around at the mud-coloured lorries, each one bearing the simple word, demolition. "But before it was a hospital, it was used as a barracks. This area was the parade ground. We dug down and found evidence of a formal sunken garden. It was probably filled in to make the parade ground." In what light was left, Rebus looked at Queensberry House. Its grey-harled walls looked unloved. There was grass growing from its gutters. It was huge, yet he couldn't remember having seen it before, though he'd driven past it, probably several hundred times in his life. "My wife used to work here," another of the group said, "when it was a hospital." The informant was Detective Sergeant Joseph Dickey, who was based at Gayfield Square. He'd successfully contrived to miss 2 out of the first 4 meetings of the PPLC, the Policing of Parliament Liaison Committee. By some arcane law of bureaucratic semantics, the PPLC was actually a subcommittee, one of many which had been set up to advise on security matters pertaining to the Scottish Parliament. There were 8 members of the PPLC, including 1 Scottish office official and a shadowy figure who claimed to be from Scotland Yard, though when Rebus had phoned the Met in London, he'd been unable to trace him. Rebus's bet was that the man, Alec Carmody, was MI5. Carmody wasn't here today, and neither was Peter Brent, the sharp-faced and sharper-suited Scottish office representative. Brent, for his sins, sat on several of the subcommittees and had begged off today's tour with the compelling excuse that he'd been through it twice before when accompanying visiting dignitaries.